Hello there. Dr. Bill Crawford here, psychologist, speaker, author of 7 books, host of 2 PBS specials. Here again to bring you another tip on how to help you create the life you want. Today I want to look at the subject of forgiveness, especially around forgiving ourselves. I think that's sometimes something that a lot of us have trouble with. We make a mistake, we do something, and we go, man, how stupid was that? What was I thinking? And we try to use the pain of making the mistake as a way of not making the mistake again. I think in many ways that's kind of what we were taught. We were growing up by parents who loved us, trying to help us learn from our mistakes. And in a fight or flight situation, you touch a hand on a hot stove and whoa, it hurts. You know not to do that again. I think, however, when we're talking about life, this lack of forgiveness, this beating ourselves up, this kind of tendency to talk ourselves down is not really serving us. The quote that I'm sending out to those 5,000 plus people on my quote list is from Maya Angelou. It says, "Forgive yourself for not knowing what you didn't know until you learned it." Isn't that great? Forgive yourself for not knowing what you didn't know until you learned it. Those are the 4 stages of learning I talk about. When the first stage is unconscious incompetence. We don't know what we're doing, but we don't know that we don't know what we're doing. That's a hard stage. So when we're making choices at that stage of unconscious incompetence, we don't know what we don't know. And we might not make some decent choices. If we're willing to learn from that, because every situation gives us good information. If we're willing to look at a choice and say, okay, what's the good information here? What did I learn from that? How can I apply that to the future? If I were doing this again, how would I do it differently? And begin to imagine taking that learning, applying it to our imagination and doing it differently. We can start actually celebrating the fact that, the next time I'm in that situation, I know exactly what I want to do. I want to do it this way. I've taken what I've known and applied it to the future, and I've forgiven myself for not knowing what I didn't know until I learned it. I think this can be the case for others as well. Sometimes somebody will make a decision in our life, and it will not be a good decision, and we have a tendency to go, well, I'm never going to trust you again, or that really hurt, and we hold on to that baggage, we carry it around. And we chain it to ourselves because we're trying to use the lack of forgiveness as a way of keeping ourselves safe in the future. And frankly, any image we hold in our mind produces a corresponding chemical effect in our body. So when we're holding on to situations that have hurt us in the past and not being willing to forgive, then what happens is we're holding on to all that baggage, chained to it in many ways, as you saw in the picture. So what I talk about here and what Maya Angelou talks about here, and I think what a lot of people talk about here, is the concept of the value of forgiveness. What if we forgave ourselves for not knowing what we didn't know until we learned it? What if we're willing to forgive others for not knowing what they didn't know until they learned it? So I'm thinking if we're able to look at that and say, okay, now I see how I want to do this differently. Now I see how I want to take my learning and apply it to the future. We can begin to celebrate that. We can begin to feel good about that. That has us moving into the future with knowledge, not shame, not guilt, not worry, not some sense that there's something wrong with me and I can't trust my own judgment. So if there's something in your past that you're having trouble forgiving yourself for, would it be fair to say that there's new knowledge you have that maybe you didn't have before then? How about forgiving ourselves for what we didn't know until we learned it? How will that allow us to move forward in a way that allows us to come from the upper 80% of the brain, what I call the top of the mind, versus that shame, fear, guilt part of the brain, that lower 20% of the brain? If that's something you're interested in, I hope this video helps you do that. If you want me to come and do a presentation to your organization about letting go of the past, moving into the future, forgiving ourselves for not knowing what we didn't know until we learned it, being able to take the learning and not the shame and apply it to the future, go to my website, billcrawfordphd.com. Let me know what you're interested in. Love to talk with you about that. If this video and these videos are helpful to you, please like them. Leave your comments below. I love to read your comments. Share them with your friends. The more we let folks know that this information is out there, the more it can apply to their lives as well. In the meantime, here is to you, bringing more clarity, confidence, creativity to everything you do. And I'll look forward to seeing you in the next video.